Thank God they didn't just put one channel.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Great.
Thanks for coming down. For those of you who have not been to the previous 3 Q&As that we've had with Creedence, Blue Oyster Cult, and Bachman and Turner, my name is Sal Cirincione. I work for Premier Radio Networks based out of New York. Basically, I'm a classic rock reporter. I write about these guys every day, whether it's Kansas, Bachman Turner, Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney, Springsteen, the list goes on and on. I write about them. These reports go out to hundreds of radio stations every day, so that after you've heard Stairway to Heaven, you may hear a little blurb about Led Zeppelin. After you hear Point of No Return, you may hear something about Kansas, that they've got a couple of symphony shows coming up, whatever the case may be. Just content to radio. But what I do is I get to cover a lot of events. That's why I'm here on the Rock Legends 2 cruise, and I get to interview a lot of artists. And now, while I'm going to moderate this Q&A, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions, but then I'm going to turn it over to you guys, because you people are the reason why they're here and why I'm here, and this is a unique opportunity for you to be able to interact with the artists. So, without further ado, welcome to the Kansas Q&A. David Ragsdale, Richard Williams on the far right. And, just a little background here, of course, Kansas, they came together in 1972, and then, of course, 4 years later is when they really hit big with Carry On Wayward Son, followed a year later by Point of No Return, Dust in the Wind. I mean, how's that for 3 great songs right in a row? And, of course, here we are 40 years later. They're still going strong. They played up on deck today. We have another show tomorrow. So, again, Kansas. Yeah. To the fans. So, you know, just to start, so what's it like, you know, here we are, the way I've been describing this to people is, this is a rock festival without the mud. It's great. How's it been?
It's been fun.
Now, you've done this before, I understand.
I've been on a couple of cruises before this one.
Performing?
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, the first time you ever did it, did you, okay.
The first time I did it was with a guy named Leon Everett out of Nashville, and we had to go through a Category 1 hurricane. It was a little bitty hurricane, but it was still a hurricane. And about probably, I'd say, at least 70% of the boat was violently ill. And it was to the Bahamas. So until we got to Nassau and they were able to get off the boat and stabilize, it was ugly. I was okay. But,
now, you were a dancer.
And a damn good one.
And Richard, for you, so what was it like up there tonight? I mean, obviously you have the elements, there's some wind blowing around, and once in a while you get a little sway from the boat. Did you notice that while performing?
Quite a bit, actually. I don't know if you've noticed, but I only have one eye. So I don't have any depth perception at all. And so, you know, what the difficult part is with the pedal board. I've got very large feet, and the little buttons are very close together. The lights are extremely bright, and so I'm blinded trying to see this thing, balancing on one foot. And since just hit or miss, so I missed about 6-7 times. Whoops! So any claims you heard, that was me. I did it. But it was a lot of fun. Played a lot of shows with Kansas, and it's always to do something different. Is like I've played in Kansas City a lot of times, but this is just something different, and it's some of the equipment is not ours, and it's like throw and go. You set up and it's time to play. And while it does, I guess what that brings to the game is a certain nervousness, I guess, that you really don't get when you're doing 4 shows a week with the same crew, the same opening act. You're opening someone else. It's your gear. This is the very seat of the pants. Like, okay, 1, 2, 3, go. It's like, oh shit, you know, and you have to just make it work. And so there's hard to explain how you like that sinking feeling in your gut as things are really about to go haywire, and then you see it all pull out of the weeds and work. It was really a lot of fun, and I guess I really enjoy that excitement of it, just not knowing what's going to happen. And that's kind of the way I play. A lot of solos I do, I don't know if it's lazy or I just don't really like to work things out in a lot of detail, so it's more of a, here it comes, what are you going to do? I don't know. Okay, start here. Okay, now, whoops, okay, now over here. Oh, that's cool. I've always had kind of a scattergun approach to it. Kind of selfishly, it's more to surprise myself. It's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, that's so good. Don't go there again. I really play by the feel of that moment in a lot of things I do. And so I guess that's what I kind of really enjoy most is about tonight was just the, what the fuck's going to happen, once we start. And it always works in the end.
So how would you sum up tonight's show? Because, a lot of times, us as fans will walk out going, man, that was the greatest show. And a lot of times, the artists are walking off stage going, that sucked. We were terrible tonight. So how would you rate tonight's show?
A lot better than I was expecting. Really. With all the, worrying about, the trouble with the other bands that had the last couple of nights with the wind. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about with equipment, with the lack of time to put it up, sound check, all those things. So there's a lot of kind of hand-wringing before that all happens. It's funny, I watch myself play like see a video of me, and it's like, God, he makes it look so easy. But when I'm doing it, it's like, it's really a struggle. And so it might look like we're really enjoying ourselves, but I got a lot of notes to play. I'm too busy concentrating on all that to have all that much fun at the moment. It's all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't play here for 10 seconds, I'm relaxed. So I think I had fun. I'll evaluate and I'll let you know in the morning.
All right, and David, for you, what did you think of the show?
I had a really good time. Actually, while Richard's critiquing himself, he saved my ass one time. We've had smoother shows, but when it's that kind of a just get up and go, things happen. Not all of them are good things, but it went well. Actually.
Well, you were fabulous.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn the mic over to the fans. I've got some questions, but you know what? Let them ask the questions, and at the end, maybe for 2 seconds, we'll just come in and get a state of the state from you, where things are at for this year and stuff. But who's got some questions, and I'll come around with a microphone.
Okay, it's really not a question, it's a comment. I just need you guys to know that without ever knowing it, you have supported our military forces, because in the 1990s, I wrote a curriculum. I worked for the Department of Defense schools overseas, and I wrote a curriculum for middle school students with Asperger's syndrome. It was called Rock and Roll, American History Through Rock and Roll, and I used your music. So without even, don't sue me. There was no internet then, so I couldn't find you. But without ever knowing it, you supported the American military overseas, and I just wanted you to know that.
We are always glad to do that.
I gave you up during the Elefante years.
That's okay.
And I met David today. I met David today. We had a wonderful time today. And with the addition of David and Billy, you guys have never been better. And I have to say, there's no place like home. Thank you for today.
Thanks.
Actually, that was one of my questions, Richard. You've been the constant now for the 41 years going into. What's that ride been like for you, and have there been times where you have thought, gee, maybe it is time to jump ship, no pun intended?
Not really.
Richard Banfield.
There was a time when everybody that was in a band was doing like solo records. People said, Rich, when are you going to do a solo record? It's like, really, the world is not waiting for a Richard Williams solo album. And I've always been, my theory on Kansas was, it was the individual pieces, and as they came together, it's not like each one of us was so amazing, but really what we did together as a team. And I've always approached Kansas as a team. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just a part of it. And so, I don't know, coming from the Midwest, you know, my father was married to my mother forever. He worked for the Baker Truck Rental, went off to World War II, came back, and it was Ryder Truck Rental, and retired from that. I'm used to committing to something and staying with something. So that's not a effort for me, that is me. And so, once I started this, I always wanted to see what's next. And also it's 4 years later, and I'm still asking that question. This is the greatest job in the world. To play guitar. Terry and Steve wrote some incredible songs that I get to perform. And it's quite an honor. I look at us as kind of like, even at 30 years, now 40 years, we're like living Mount Rushmore. It's if you don't even like us, we're part of American rock history, and we're a force to be reckoned with. And I'm very proud of that. And so no, I have no desire to be in any other band at any other time. This is what it was a hobby in high school that turned into a job, and then it turned into a career, and it is now my life. And it's been great, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Good for you. And David, you came into the band just before the halfway mark now. You're in about 22 years.
Yeah, right after my dancer days.
Yes, I appreciate it. When you came into the band, this was an established band. There were hits getting played on the radio, which they still do today. How did you navigate that course at first, and how has your role evolved over the years?
I chased the band around for about 4 years. The band released an album, the Power record with Steve Morse. It was the band had gone through is it a breakup?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Not official, but we weren't doing it.
There it is. And the band reformed with Steve Morse, who I was a big Kansas fan, I was a big Dixie Dregs fan, and the Power album reflects both of those influences strongly. And when I got the album and listened to it, I could hear the violin parts that weren't there. And a friend of mine said, what you need to do is get yourself, this was back when you had little 4-track cassette decks, you remember those? And he said, you need to put Kansas on 2 tracks, you on the other 2 tracks, and add those parts that you're talking about, that's what I did. And I managed to get a copy of it to Phil, who he liked it and called me, but didn't hire me until, it took about 4 years. But I had his number, and every 5 or 6 months or so, I'd call him up, hey man, how you doing? If I went into the studio and did anything that was at all listenable, I'd make sure he got a copy of it, and kept just kind of pushing it a little bit, and it finally came together.
All right. Who else has a question? Sir, come around.
Usually pretty women do this job. And that's not, I don't think it's okay, pretty women.
Guys, I've enjoyed your music over the years so much. A song that's really struck me, having a very difficult childhood and kind of hitting the wall, so to speak, and my relationship with God has been very good. And that song, just from beginning to end, just circles that whole story and just hits me, right in the heart. Talk to me about The Wall and how it came to be and what the idea behind it was.
Well, it's really hard to talk about, those are Carrie's lyrics, Carrie's song. And so, what he meant in all of that, it'd be a better thing for him to answer, but he couldn't make it tonight. That being said, I remember very much recording that studio in the country in Bogalusa, Louisiana. And there are some songs that Carrie wrote that are just unlike really anything else, and that's one of them. That is such a quintessential Kansas song. Lyrically, it's very powerful lyrically, but it's, for me, what I like in Carrie's writing the most, when it was a bit ambiguous, in that any common man could find his own meaning within it. Rather than, here's what it is, and I'm going to tell you what it is, he opened doors for you to look through in that era of his writing. And I thought that was one of his most powerful songs. Musically, it is an incredible piece of music. I remember the solo that at the beginning of that, I never approached one that way before, so we needed a melodic solo. And I just made a different tone, and so I had him put through the Marshall head, and I just cranked up the bass channel, put on my bass pickup, and just was blowing the doors off. And these overtones were coming out of the amp and stuff, and it's like, and that sound, I played to it, and that's what inspired the notes that came out of that. And where I was sitting back after I played that spot, I was going, wow, this song is really cool. It's because we don't know where the song's going, and as we're doing it, it's unfolding. And so as each layer was going upon it, we're going, there are a lot of songs that are very cool, some are very special, and then there's those songs, like The Wall. And then I put that in my top 5 all-time Kansas songs.
Thank you. This might just need a real short answer, but there's a great song that I thought might be appropriate for this cruise, People of the South Wind. Do you play it live sometimes?
We have, but not lately.
Not lately, right. Short answer.
It's a fun song to play.
It is a fun song. We kind of did it actually with Native Window.
That's right.
Yeah, we did a different arrangement of it. Some songs, they work at a time, and then you try to breathe life back into them, and they just don't work for you. The band has a hard time. Wow, this isn't any fun to play, and that has been one that has had its moments in the sun. But I can't tell you. I've been trying to get that song with some help with my lovely wife prodding me along to get this for the last 3 years. We need to play this song. It's still relevant today. We hadn't played it, since the mid-70s. And finally, everybody's on board to play it again. And it has life in it again. And that song probably will too. It's just, its time has to come again.
Okay, who's next? Back there, grab that. Coming around.
Do you ever feel like Phil Donahue?
I pitched the cruise company on this, and I didn't know what to expect, but I'm having fun.
You could be the new auctioneer, actually.
There you go. I can't talk fast, that's my only question.
Oh, okay. Kind of got a two-part question. With 25 bands being on this cruise, how's the band interaction been, if there's been any? And who have you guys most wanted to hear and see on this cruise?
Wow. That's a, it's a,
Come on, give us the
it's
dirt.
a great line. How do you choose out of those? When I first went online and saw the lineup of bands, I was like, my gosh, it's kind of, how do you, at which time of day is the band,
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
There's half the bands I've never heard before, and the other half I've played with so many times. So it's really fun to just sit around. We sit with, next to Eric with Blue Oyster Cult last night at Paul Rogers, and we opened for them in Parsons, Kansas, and I don't think we were in Kansas yet. We're still White Clover. I don't think we'd recorded yet, and they blew our PA to smithereens. That's how far back we go. And so I just left backstage talking with Brian from Foghat, who I've known since he's been in the band. It's more than just hearing the bands. It's really just reconnecting with the guys. Like we did the Foreigner 4 tour when that was out in Europe. And so to see Mick and stuff, and I'm glad to see he's back out with it. And those are the things to be around your peers that that we don't all really know each other, but we know so much about each other because we've lived the same life. And so when you talk to these people, like you're having trouble with this, trouble with that, or oh man, I know. I mean, we really are. There's a brotherhood about us all. They've just been around doing this together for so long, and it's great to get together and see that. It's very, very comforting.
Okay, right here. Just pass this.
This is actually a follow-up to this other gentleman's question, but it seems like a lot of your songs, fits the American Indian theme, Cheyenne's Anthem, and even the Monolith album, had American Indian on it. Can you speak to that? Was that more the songwriter's theme and idea, or can you speak to the background?
I don't know if it was, the Kansas upbringing or what, and growing up in our era, as children, we gun smoked, and it was the westerns and all that, and living in that area of the history. I think we were probably more in tune with all of that stuff than people from Los Angeles might have been. Carrie read a lot, and a lot of variety of things, and he would get a lot of inspiration from that. And As in Dust in the Wind was inspired from reading an American Indian book, and we saw the phrase, where's dust in the wind? That was another thing. Cheyenne Anthem the same. Just on, the point of the American Indian. I don't know, I think we're just a little bit more sensitive than some people to that, strictly because of the geography. And then the artist comes up with these concepts, and all of a sudden it's like, well, let's run with that, because this is such a great idea. And so it's kind of like a jamming, but it's thought jamming, where this turns into that, and wow, then let's take it here. So that's really how it all kind of evolved into that. But yeah, we do a lot of like casinos and things, and a lot of meeting the tribal elders and stuff, and they're always making comments about how much they appreciate that. It's like, we were just kind of reporting what we felt about, certain few things at the time. It was normal to us, but in retrospect, when you look at it, it does seem like we do kind of point out a lot more American Indian things than most people do.
Okay, and lady in the front.
I do feel like Phil down here.
Hi, I just want to follow up on the other gentleman's question. Doing this for NAHA and for Pam and Barb to put this together is just immense and amazing. But just tell me like the process of how you were booked for this and so on and so forth.
Well, this was like really any other thing. We manage ourselves, and so we kind of pick and choose. And
They called you and...
we get called, and it's like, you want to do the show? You want to do that? Well, we don't want to do this. Yeah, we want to do that. And so, since the band has never done this before, we had to kind of talk amongst ourselves a little bit. You guys want to do this? Sure, why not? And so that's really the process. Is a promoter or someone contacts our booking agency, and we decide yes or no. And this was definitely a thumbs up.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Oh, glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's funny, there's another cruise going out in a couple of months, and somebody contacted me to say, hey, can you recommend some support acts for this band? It's the Moody Blues Cruise. And I said, yeah, I know a couple of people, and one of the ones I contacted on behalf of them was John Anderson, who used to be the lead singer of Yes. And he goes, I'd love to do it. Problem is, I get seasick. So, here you're talking about a band. Do any of the guys, did you have to say, oh, okay, I can do it, but I'm going to have to, dose up on the Dramamine or anything?
Our drum tech.
He came right in the backseat of a car. So this, he's done about 10 10 Dramamine a day.
Got it. Okay, who's next? Sir in the front.
I have to say I'm not alone in the atrocity that you're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What are your...
I think we're in very good company. There's a lot of great people that never will be there. And for me, you know, we're just a kind of blue-collar band. I mean, we just go out and work, we play, and that's what I like to do. When I go home, you know, I'm barely recognize any fame I have at all, but it's when I leave here, I don't walk around thinking, breathing, I'm in Kansas. It's just not a part of me. I'm just me. For my family and, you know, future grandchildren and stuff, for them, I would really like to be in. I think that would be, it just would make me feel good to know that, you know, they were taking their children, you know, to Cleveland one day and say, yeah, your grandfather was in this band. That means a lot more to me than actually being doing it. That being said, if we get nominated next year, you know, I'll be the first one on the bus.
Is there anything we as fans can do? I mean, petition-wise, or?
Oh, they've been doing a petition for years for that. I don't understand the politics of it. My Martin guitar that I recorded Dust in the Wind with is there. I didn't make it. They have my guitar though. They're happy.
The guitar didn't play itself.
There is a certain comfort in taking a look at the people that are there that shouldn't be.
Right.
I'm not going to name names, but they've made some choices that. When I think of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Right.
You know, I think parts of us don't fit at all, but a lot of what we have done has. And just from, like, you know, just Wayward Son alone for being, you know, a #1 played song for decades on FM radio. We've got our foot in the door. I think we should be considered for that. But there are some other people, and again, I don't want to kick anybody, but it's like,
Run DMC?
seriously, that's
Public
something
Enemy?
that doesn't make sense to me. And so that's what the politics of what all this is. From what it started to what it's evolved to, I don't get it, but you know, they don't care if I get it. And that's okay with me, you know.
Yeah, and just so you people,
Not that I'm bitter about it.
God damn it.
so you understand, it's completely, it's an opinion. It's a nominating committee. They get in, they get together, and they nominate their favorite artists. And that's why it's not based really on anything. It's not based on airplay. It's not based on longevity. It's not based on record sales. It's just a bunch of people who get together in New York. A lot of people call them snobs, elitists, whatever. I'm not one of the nominating people or anything like that, even though I'm from New York. But that's really what it comes down to. But they made a great point. Think about who's not in there, and then, you know, Jethro Tull, the Moody Blues, Cheap Trick, Chicago, Farno, the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. The list goes on and on. But enough of my going on here. Who else has a question?
It's a club.
Young lady over there.
Exactly. It is a club. That's exactly right.
Progressive rock. They don't like it. They won't let it in.
Okay.
Hi. With the introduction of Sirius and XM Radio and Pandora, have royalty fees become more frustrating for you as an artist, or has that increased, you know, the downloadability of your music and increased royalty fees, or do you even get them from internet play?
Here's how it doesn't work. We signed a record deal with Don Christian Records 40 years ago. Our sights were set on making a record, a recording. We knew nothing about the business whatsoever. And we just sent a few tapes out to the wind, and one landed on Kirshner's desk. We were ready to sign it, and unfortunately we did. When we asked, you know,